because there's a Psalm 147, that says he doesn't take pleasure in the legs of a man. God's like, you know what? It doesn't really bless me, this ability you have to gather your strengths, get your legs under you, and just ram your way through life. That doesn't exactly bless me. So I'm going to take your legs out to remove your ability to push, because now here's what God is after in one word. He is going to infuse meekness into Jacob. When God takes your hip out, Ken, he is after meekness. Pick me up at the airport and I'll pick on you all night long. Meekness, the refusal to use natural strengths to accomplish a spiritual purpose. Meekness. Meekness has to do with your fathering paradigm. God is after Jacob the father, because when God apprehends Jacob at Peniel, he's not really after Jacob, he's after Joseph. God needs to get himself a Joseph. And so he's going to come to Jacob when Jacob is roughly, now we can't put a precise number on it. He was around 75 when he did the goat hair thing. It's 20 years later, so he's around 95, give or take whatever. If Jacob is 95, Joseph is 4. God comes to Jacob when Joseph is in those formative years. Why? Because God needs to get a Joseph out of Jacob. God is coming to transform Jacob's fathering paradigm so that he can give us a Joseph. God's like, okay, Jacob, let's just look at your track record here, ramming your way through life. Okay, your firstborn, Reuben, well, he's going to sleep with one of your father's wives. The next two in line, Levi and Simeon, they have a temper problem. They're going to take out an entire community in their rage. Number 4 on the list, Judah. He's got issues with prostitutes. Jacob, this is not going a good direction. If I leave you uninterrupted, I will never get a Joseph out of you. So I've got to take your hip out, take that pushing thing out of you, change your name, because I need you to give me a Joseph. The brothers were raised by Jacob. Joseph was raised by Israel. Now, I want to talk about the Jacob-Joseph connection for just a moment. I want to come out of our storyline and talk about it. Chapter 37. Genesis 37. Now, Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. This is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers. I want to read verse 2 one more time. This is the history of Jacob, Joseph. Excuse me. I'm just going to read that again. This is the history of Jacob, Joseph. Whose story are we telling here? Is this Jacob's story or is it Joseph's story? And Moses is going to help us with it. Moses is like, you thought I was changing stories. You thought I was moving on from Jacob to Joseph. But he says, I'm not changing the story. It's still Jacob's story. Why? Because Joseph's story is Jacob's story. The stories of successive generations are intrinsically bound up together. It starts with Jacob setting up Joseph for greatness. But by the time the story comes full circle, it's Joseph who sets up Jacob for greatness. By the time the story is finished, it's Joseph who says, Papa, meet Pharaoh. Pharaoh, meet my papa. And then Jacob blesses Pharaoh, the number one man on the planet. And we know the principle of Hebrews 7:7, the lesser is blessed by the better. Jacob goes out the best man on the planet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he's set up for it by Joseph. Joseph, if your story is not written, Jacob's story is not finished. When I started to see this Jacob-Joseph connection, it changed the way I looked at my kids. Now, I'm 58. My kids are 31, 29, and 25. And I'm just going to tell you what it's like when your kids get into their 20s and their 30s. Are you ready? I'm going to tell you what it's like. When your kids get that age, you're like, I did my best. Just give me as much as you got. I'll take everything you got. I didn't know. It's like what I had to say, I said. What I had to give, I give. If they haven't got up by now. And when your kids get in their 20s and 30s, it's tempting to think like this. I guess I have to let them go. I guess I've got to release them. I guess they've got to find their own way. I guess they've got to get their own connection with God. I guess they've got to find ownership for their own journey. I guess I just got to let... And now I'm looking at the Jacob-Joseph thing and I'm going, let them go. Their story is my story. I'm not going to let them go. I'm going to hold on more than ever. I'm going to care more than ever. I'm going to pray harder than ever. Why? Because their story is my story. Now I'm coming back to our storyline, chapter 33. Jacob has come to Peniel, had his hip taken out, had his name changed. He keeps on moving. He comes to the Jordan River and crosses the crosses the Jordan, he steps with his feet onto Canaan for the first time in 20 years. And the very first place he sets up camp is in Shechem. This is Genesis 33. And when he makes his first camp, Jacob has business to do with God. Genesis 33, verse 20. Then he erected an altar there and called it El Elohe Israel. It's at Shechem that Jacob builds an altar and calls it, now here's the meaning, God, the God of Israel. It's at Shechem that he is now the God of Israel. It's at Shechem that Jacob builds an altar and says, 20 years ago, I said, if you'll do this, and this, that then you will be my God. You have done this, and this. And he builds an altar and says, you are now my God. And it's at Shechem that he becomes the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And you and I can be critical of Jacob in a number of ways, but I will say this to his credit, he never went back on the altar he built at Shechem till the day he died. He held to the covenant of this altar that he built at Shechem. And wow, is it about to be tested? The brothers come to their father. They've got a garment in hand. It's bloodied. It's torn. Papa, do you recognize the garment? Genesis 37, verse 33. And he recognized it and said, it is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I shall go down into the grave.
If you have been blessed, changed, and imparted by today's message, we would like to extend an opportunity for you to partner with us to impact the world with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Dear friends, join with us, and together we can change the world. Partner with us and share in what God is doing through Reformers Life Broadcast. Call us at 718-904-8530 or visit us at www.ecclesiaword.org today. Imparted by this teaching, and we look forward to being with you again. To request this teaching in its entirety and for a complete catalog of all of our books, CDs, and DVDs, please visit us at ecclesiaword.org. Remember that you are a reformer and you walk in the anointing of reformation, and your faith in God is changing your circumstances.